It dawned on us recently that the last time we showed you our turtle enclosures was when we upgraded them last year, so let me give you an update on our turtles. I apologize in advance, I know the lighting isn't the best down here, but we've got it set up as best as we can. But let me just run you through all the turtles that we have. In this 75-gallon tank, we have our 3 rescued turtles. This is a spiny soft shell. His name is Taco, because you know, he's a soft shell. And he is very food motivated and will follow you around. He has a bit of an upturned shell, and we believe that's because in his previous home he was not given UVB. But he's healthy otherwise, and he is full grown. I made sure that he was a male before I took him in, because if he was a female, he'd be about the size of a dinner plate, or she would be the size of a dinner plate. And we did not want that, because we didn't want him to outgrow this tank. Right here is a Western painted turtle. She's another rescue from our local herpetological society. And then over here is a false map turtle. This is Shelby, and she is stunted, unfortunately. She was kept in a small tank without UVB. She might have had UVB because there isn't much curvature to her shell, but she's very small for her age. She is, I believe, 14 years old, if we were told correctly when we picked her up. And she should be much larger. She should also be about 12 inches in diameter. She should be big. But she is stunted, and this happens far too often with pet turtles. People will get them thinking they're a cool pet, but they keep them in far too small of an enclosure and with incorrect lighting, and then they have all sorts of health issues as a result, and usually a shortened lifespan too. But she's a cute little turtle. She's the one I bring to programs, so she's actually pretty well socialized. She's not hiding in her shell at all. We can tell that she's a female, by the way, because she has these short little like bear claw nails at the end of her front feet. A male map turtle or painted turtle would have much longer claws. So we have just the 3 of those in the 75-gallon tank. Some people will say that you can't cohab different species of turtles. It really depends on what kind of turtles you're putting together. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. In the case of these 3, they get along great. And the only thing we had to alter was, instead of no substrate on the bottom, we had to put sand down here for the soft shell to dig in, because he loves to bury himself in the sand, just like they do in the wild. So we tried to replicate that a little bit in their enclosure here. In this bottom tank, this is a 40-gallon tank, we have 3 little stink pots. These are also called musk turtles, or the common musk turtle, because when they feel threatened, they emit a foul smelling musk. But this one here is thankfully not smelly, so we're in the clear, we're all good. Her name is Pebble. She came from Craigslist, where someone was selling a map turtle, and I showed up and it was a stink pot. So she was mislabeled, but she's adorable, and it works out perfectly because we were looking for a stink pot anyway. And she is full grown, if you can believe it. This is about max size, or adult size, for the stink pots. They're a very small species of turtle, and about the size of pennies when they first hatch from their eggs. But what's even more unbelievable about the stink pot is that this is the size of their eggs. I don't know which, we have 2 females and a male in here, and we saw this egg one day. It's not fertile, so I just kept it for educational purposes, but can you imagine having that big of an egg inside of you? That's just ridiculous. I can't believe it. We're hoping to breed these someday, but the eggs so far have just been infertile, so we don't know when that day will come, but if they start laying fertile eggs, we're going to be setting up a breeding box up here with a mix of topsoil and sand, and that's kind of what the substrate is they need to lay their eggs in. Here are the other 2 stink pots. This is the male. See how big of a tail he has and how thick it is? That's a sign that this one is a male. And then this one over here is the second female. So we have this trio. He's just a lucky man. These 2 aren't as, well, I guess they're all equally as squirmy, but they're not smelly, so that's always good. I don't know why this one has a hole in the shell and why this one has a notch out of his shell, but we bought them as a breeding pair from a different turtle supplier, so there's a chance that they could have been wild caught. We didn't realize that they would be wild caught, but I mean, we're hoping to produce captive bred babies from them in the future. Here's a look at the difference between their tails. See how much thicker his tail is compared to hers? This is where, of course, his reproductive organs are stored, so it's a really good way to sex certain species of turtles. I have one more turtle I would like to share with you today, and this is our newest turtle. As most of you know, we had an adorable little rescued painted turtle named Michelle. She was also a stunted turtle, just like the map turtle up here, and she... What are you doing? I don't know what she's doing. Okay. Anyway, our painted turtle Michelle was, even though she was this big, she was between 8 and 10 years old, so she was severely stunted, and that was, I didn't see the habitat she was kept in, but I can only imagine she was kept in a very small tank without UVB, and she had some other pre-existing health conditions too when we received her. So because of all of that, she sadly did pass away last year, and we were heartbroken. She was, no offense to you guys, but she was my favorite turtle out of everything that we have. I didn't think we'd be getting another painted turtle until I found Mitchell. This is Mitchell. We figured we'd name him something close to Michelle. And as you can see, the first thing you might notice is the severe curving to his shell. This deformity is caused by lack of UVB, again, but I've never seen it this bad in such a little painted turtle before. This is just ridiculous. So I don't know how old he is, but he could be quite old, maybe even older than Michelle, because of the severity of his shell curvature here. You might also notice that he has some odd shell coloration, and this could be the start of shell rot, we're thinking. So we have been treating him with Desitin, which is a baby ointment, but it works great for turtle shell issues because it's water resistant, and it really helps clear up issues on turtles. We've also been using it on his back left leg here, or foot I should say. You can kind of see here, he has some almost whitish looking, like almost necrotic looking tissue on his foot. So we've been using the Desitin on that too, and it's really cleared up. I should have taken a before picture because it was really bad when we first got him. And I believe because of how much favoritism he's giving to this leg, he's lost a bit of muscle mass in this one compared to the other foot. See how much thicker and more muscular that foot is? That could be because this one is compensating for the lack of a foot on the other side, or it could be because he's not using this leg and he's losing muscle mass, or a combination of both. But thankfully, because of the religious treatment we've been giving to his foot, especially when we first got him, which was about once a day we were treating it, it's cleared up dramatically and it looks much, much better. And he is actually using his foot again, so that's great to see. This one we know is a male because, I mean, not only does he have a really long tail and the cloaca extends past the carapace, which is the top part of the shell, but he also has these very long claws at the end of his front feet. Males will use these claws to kind of show off in front of the faces of the ladies, but it's a nice, easy way to sex certain species of turtles. Sadly, I don't think we're going to be able to cure this severe shell deformity, but we can prevent it from getting worse. And I don't know if he's going to be permanently stunted or if he'll grow a little bit and then maybe grow out of this slightly, but I honestly think he's going to have quite a bit of curving here for the rest of his life. The way we are preventing it from getting worse is just by giving him a UVB light. And instead of the curly UVBs that only are pretty restricted as to the range of UVB they provide in the enclosure, we always recommend using a strip UVB whenever possible because it shoots out UVB rays in a much bigger range for the animals underneath. And a lot of you might already know this, but a lot of new reptile owners do not. So I'm going to mention it anyway. UVB lights only last 6 to 8 months before they have to be replaced. Even if the bulb is still working, the UV will run out, so you have to replace them every 6 to 8 months. For the time being, Mitchell here is being housed in the 40-gallon mansion with the 3 stink pots because, although he's another painted turtle, just like Shelly up here, there's a big size difference between him and these 3 turtles, plus that would be kind of crowding the 75-gallon tank, so we decided to, yeah, look at her. Yeah, he's not food. Don't eat Mitchell. Thankfully, the person who used to own Shelly, the painted turtle up here, did a good job in caring for her because she looks perfect. She's in great condition ever since we adopted her. But that cannot be said about these 2 poor little turtles. So this is just an example, or a couple of examples, as to why you should provide proper housing, lighting, and overall care to pet turtles. A lot of people think these are awesome pets to have, and they get them as cute little quarter-sized babies, but they don't provide them the right homes. And that's when you end up with stunted turtles or shell-deformed turtles, just like both of these, along with the soft-shell turtle back here. I always hear from people, like especially little boys, that they want a pet turtle. But I mean, between these 2 enclosures, because they're all filtered with canister filters, there's one here and one back here, one for each tank, we have invested about $600 to $700 in just these enclosures alone. And they are a long commitment too. Not only expensive, but turtles can last decades. They should last around 40 years for certain species, sometimes even more for other aquatic species. If you are insistent on getting a pet turtle, I wouldn't recommend a map turtle or a painted turtle or a red-eared slider because they get pretty large, so unless you're ready to dedicate a 75-gallon tank at least, along with canister filter, lighting, the whole shebang, I would just recommend getting a stink pot because, as you can see, They only get 3 to maybe 4 inches in diameter, max size, so you can house one or a pair in a 20-gallon long minimum, but if you can put them in a 40-gallon, that's even better. Here you go. You can go there. I wanted to show you that crazy shell deformity in that poor little painted turtle on our new rescue, and I think I'm going to feed him now. We feed them Reptimin, but I also mix in other brands in the same bag. We give them shrimp, there's mealworms, there's other brands of turtle food in here just so they have as big of a variety as possible. And we'll also buy minnows, like live minnows, to put in their tanks for enrichment. It's so much fun watching them hunt them down. But here you go, guys. Now, we've been begging all day. Even the stink pots will come up for this. They seem to prefer it more than their stinking stink pot food. We also do have a snapping turtle named Chloe, but she's housed over this wall next to Rex, and the lighting is terrible at the time of day we're trying to film it, so I'm just gonna leave her out of this video. But they're all doing great, and I also wanted to introduce you to Mitchell here, our newest rescue with crazy shell deformities due to his neglectful past. But I think he'll fit in quite well with the rest of our reptiles. Thank you to our Patreon supporters for backing this channel and for all of your support, and thank you to everyone watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this little turtley update, and we'll see you next time.